Alrighty, let's go. Welcome back into the Skooshi Sport podcast, guys. Giving you your live reaction to Team List Chooser for round 5 Easter weekend coming up. So we've got our traditional Good Friday game, and then we've got our Good Monday, I was about to say, Easter Monday game between the Eagles and the Tigers happening as well. So just going to go through the team list, give you my live reactions. Don't really know what to expect. I have a feeling there might be a couple changes to the Raiders. We obviously could have Payne Haas potentially back as well. And then maybe just a couple little other ones. But we'll go through it all 100%. Before we get into it, make sure you give the video a massive like and subscribe as well. Make sure you follow all my socials are all down there in the comments. But let's get straight into it. Let's rip the Band-Aid off. Starting on Thursday night, we got the Dolphins and the Seagulls from Redcliffe. First game of the season from KO Stadium. Starting with the Dolphins at fullback, we got Hammer. On the wings, we got Asako and Selwyn Cobbo. And in the centers, you got Jake Averillo and Herbie Farnworth. So, did put out that I'd like to see Trey Fuller at fullback, potentially, but is what it is. In your halves, Nick Rima and Isaiah Katoa. In your forwards, you got Tom Gilbert and Felice Kafusi, which is good to see. In hooker, you got Max Plath. On your edges, you got Connolly Lemuelu and Kulikefi Fine Fuyaki, and then Morgan Knowles at lock. On your bench, Brad Schneider, Tom Flegler. On the bench, still Ray Stone, Francis Molo, Kurt Donahoe, and Trey Fuller there. Not too many massive surprises really there from the Dolphins. Obviously, you got Felice Kafusi starting there over Tom Flegler at the moment. Maybe they just think it's working quite well. For Manly Turbo, the back there on your wings, we've got Clayton Falalolo in for the suspended Jason Saab and Lehigh on the other wing. In the centers, you got Kohler and Garrick. In your halves, you got Luke Brooks and Jamal Fogarty. Starting up front, you've got Talia Paseka and Kobe Hetherington. Starting a hooker, obviously the first game under Kieran Foran, as well as interim Brandon Wakeham starting a hooker. Oh, I don't know how I feel about that. On your edges, Hamale Olakwatu and Ben Travojevic. And then starting at lock, you got Jake Travojevic there. On your bench, you got Jake Simpkin, Corey Waddell, Ethan Bullymore is back, got injured during the warm-up last week. Simi Lafai, Paul Bryant, and Josh Felaty. So no sign of Joey Walsh there. He is there on the reserves. I was expecting Joey Walsh. I thought Kieran Foran would probably be a big fan of Joey Walsh. I'm kind of disappointed. He's literally made no, changes from what essentially is that starting team from last week. And I just thought, yeah, 0-3, you've got an interim coach now. I just thought Kieran Foran would probably shift the cogs a little bit, but yeah, I'm probably a little surprised I haven't seen really any changes there. On to Good Friday. Bunnies and the Doggies here live from Accor Stadium for this one here, starting with the South Sydney Rabbitohs coming off the bye. Jai Gray at fullback. On your wings, you got Alex Johnson and Campbell Graham. In your centers, Latrell and Jackie Whiten. In your halves, you got, obviously, Campbell Graham is back, which is good to see. In your halves, Cody Walker and Jamie Humphreys. Up front, you got Tavita Totola and Keon Kolomatangi. Bronson Garlick still there at hooker, so no sign of Cheese just yet, unless he's there on the bench. On your edges, David Fafita and Tallis Duncan, and then Cam Murray, captain and starting lock. On your bench, Mama Zealous, Lockie Hubner, Sean Kepi, Liam LeBlanc, Jaden Sullivan, Moella Graham Taufa. Still no sign of Brandon Smith, so he's still not good to go. Obviously, mainly saying that because he's a big, super coach prospect this week, and obviously just good to see Cheese back in the game. But I did hear he's still a little bit undone from his preseason injury, maybe in back round 5 after the bye, but sounds like potentially next week. But yeah, I did hear he was training with the reserves. For the Doggies at fullback, Connor Tracy. On your wings, you got Jacob Kiraz and Marcelo Montoya. In your centers, Inari Tawala and Stephen Crichton. In your halves, Matty Burden and Lockie Galvin. Still no changes there. I was hoping from a Doggies point of view, they would put Sean O'Sullivan there at 7 and Lockie Galvin there at 6. Put Matt Burden there at left center and Stephen Crichton on the other side, but looks like they're unchanged. Front, Max King and Sam Hughes is back from his HIA. Bayer Hayward starting their hooker. On your edges, got Viliami Kickout and Jacob Preston, and then Jamin Saturn starting at lock. On your bench, Kurt Mann, Satili Tupanua, Harry Hayes is back. Sean O'Sullivan, Bronson Sherry is back there on the bench, which is interesting. And Lupai Hopoi. Again, similar to like what I guess Manly, like apart from the obvious change of Sam Hughes coming back into start because he's HIA last week, I'm surprised there's no changes there. Doggies have been very, very poor on attack the first 3 weeks of the comp, their first 3 games. I just thought we'd probably see some form of change, and we haven't, which I do find very, very surprising. Very intrigued to see how the Doggies attack goes this week. Adam O'Brien there as well. Yeah, I'm very intrigued. They got absolutely battered last week by Newcastle. All right, Panthers and the Storm. This is looking to be one of the games of the week from CommBank. Essentially the first home game for Penrith this season. You've got Dylan Edwards at the back, fullback there. On your wings, Tom, the Milky Bar Kid, Jenkins, and Brian To'o. In your centres, Paul Alamotti and Casey McLean. In your halves, Blaze Talangi, Nathan Cleary. Up front, Moses Leota and Lindsay Smith. Freddie Lussick is in for the suspended Mitch Kenny this week, so Mitch Kenny will be back next week. On your edges, you got IPAP and Liam Martin, and then Isaiah Yeo starting there at lock. On your bench, you got Jack Cogger, Billy Phillips, Scott Sorensen, Luke Garner, Isaac Tungo there, and Kalani going. Yeah, pretty unchanged for Penrith there from last week, apart from Freddie Lussick in for Mitch Kenny. For the Storm, you have got Sua Falago at the back. You've got Will Warbrick and Sualangi Tumalatu Brown on the wings. You got Jack Howarth, who I thought was injured from last week, and Nick Meaney in the centres back. So they've dropped Moses Leo. He has been pretty darn poor defensively, I think, and not doing much on attack. I did think it was potentially coming. He's made the big call, 2 losses in a row. Bellamy is not happy. I did think Jack Howarth was injured, and obviously Nick Meaney got a hit pointer the week before, so he was out for the Cowboys, but they're going with Tui Malatu Brown on the wing, which is interesting. In your halves, Cameron Munster and Jerome Hughes. Up front, you got Stefano Utoikamanu and Josh King. Harry Grant at hooker. On your edges, Joe Chan and Alec McDonald, so still no sign of Sean Bloor. Starting lock is Trent Liero. On your bench, you got Tyrone Wishart, Davy Mawali, Jack Hetherington, Cooper Clark, Lazarus Valepu, and Manea White-Terry. The big surprise, obviously, they've dropped Moses Leo. They've put Nick Meaney back into the centres and put Suilangi Tuimalatu Brown there on the wing. And Jack Howard sounds like he's good to go, which I did not think he was. I think he got a groin injury last week against the Cowboys. So very intrigued to see if that actually is the starting lineup for Penrith. Big game for Melbourne to go to Sydney and try and tackle that clash. All right, Saturday afternoon, Dragons versus the Cowboys. So Dragons 0-4 against the Cowboys off back-to-back wins, including the Storm last week. Dragons have got to be desperate. For the Dragons, fullback Clint Gustafson. On your wings, you got Christian Tuipulotu, and David Farley is getting the opportunity this week. Wow. So we had Setu 2 get named last week, but sounded like he was, and then we had Tyrell Sloan come in for him. Sounds like Setu 2 got dropped. Tyrell Sloan didn't really do much apart from that try, so David Farley is coming in. Interesting. And then you got Moses Sully, who's back. You got Val Holmes in the centres. Liking King Tongia at 5'8" in for Kyle Flanagan, who I think he's out for 3 weeks, obviously with a head knock. Daniel Atkinson, a halfback. Emre Gula, Toby Couchman is back up front for the Dragons. Damien Cook starting a hooker. On your edges, my boy Luciano Leilua and Jaden Sewer, and then Hamish Stewart starting there at lock. On your bench, Jacob Little, Blake Laurie, Jacob Halangahu, Haim Saleh, Josh Kerr, and then Tyrell Sloan there on the bench. So the big surprise and the main change is obviously David Farley. I think he's potentially making his debut. I could be wrong there. For essentially Setu 2 and then Tyrell Sloan there as well. They've got to be desperate, and obviously LKT in there for Flanagan, which was necessary. Interesting. They've got to make some changes. They're 0-4. Shane Hasu, he's under pressure as well as a coach. He had to make some form of changes, I think, in my opinion. For the Cowboys, Scott Drink, Bolter at fullback. On your wings, Braden Burns and Murray Taulagi. In your centres, Jackson Purdue. Tom Chester is there. Yes. Future Supercoach. I did not think Tom Chester would come back in for Zach Labour, especially after that winning effort last week. Hopefully he retains that spot. That is massive news. In your halves, Jake Clifford and Tommy Dearden. Up front, you got Colin Hess and Jason Taumalolo. Reed Marnie still starting there at hooker, despite how bad he's been. On your edges, Helium Lukey and Sam McIntyre. Jeremiah Nana cannot be far away at all, I would think. I'm not sure what his status is at the moment. Ruben Cotter starting at lock. On your bench, Sonny Luke, Griffin Neem, Tom McKaylee, Matt Lodge, Harrison Edwards, and Zach Labour is there on the bench. But I wouldn't expect them to get any minutes. If this is an unchanged team, unchanged 19 at game time, I would not expect Zach Labour to get game time for Tom Chester, which you absolutely love to see for Supercoach there. No massive surprise. I mean, I guess I'm kind of surprised that Tom Chester's actually got that spot back, which is great news because Tom Chester wasn't even the first choice heading into Vegas. He was just put in their first 2 rounds because Zach Laybuck was suspended. But Tom Chester was probably one of the standout performers of their team in the first 2 rounds, even though they got flogged. Then gets suspended out last week, and now good to see he is back for this game here. Very good signs of Tom Chester as a player. All right, Titans Broncos, Queensland Derby. Love to see it. 6:30 here in the Gold Coast for the Titans. Counting Keeney at fullback. Fine Money still retains his spot on the wing with Philip Sami on the other wing. Jojo Fafita and AJ Brimson in the centers. I did think AJ did go pretty solid there at center there on Sunday for the Dragons there. In your halves, Lockie Ilias and Jaden Campbell. Up front, bit of a change here. Cleese Haas is starting at prop. Interesting. And Tina Fasul Malawi as well. Sammy Verrill starting hooker. My boy Aaron Mahal, if you play Supercoach, you'll know. And Bo Fermor on the other edge. Chris Randall there at lock. On your bench, Curtis Morin, Cooper Bai, Mo Fodawaker, Oliver Pascoe, Max Fine, and Jet Liu. No huge surprises there. Just obviously pretty much retained what they did last week. Cleese Haas is starting over Mo Fodawaker, who has been like very poor to start the year. Cleese Haas has been, I think he's actually been one of the better ones, like impact off the bench, and Mo Fodawaker has been super poor. So it doesn't surprise me that Josh Hannah has made that change. I get they won last week, but Mo Fodawaker has been very poor. And a year that's been meant to be really big for him. I think he's potentially in a contract year. He's a origin forward. He's been very poor. For the Broncos, I know there's going to be a couple changes here. Reece Walsh at fullback. On the wings, Dean Mariner and Jesse Arthur. So Karapani did get dropped. Word came out that he was out in the valley, out clubbing after that game on Friday night. Ended up getting kicked out of a club for having, I think, a little bit of a run-in with someone else. And then, so he's just been dropped for the week, I believe. In your centers, Katoni Staggs and Shibasaki. So obviously Grant Anderson is injured. Did his, I think it's MCL or PCL from last week, out 10 to 12 weeks, which is a massive shame. In your halves, Ezra Mam and Adam Reynolds. In your forwards, we've got Corey Jensen and Payne Haas. Fucking hell. That is going to have to be Supercoach meltdown. I did sell him last week. Did think he'd be out for a little bit longer. Very interested to see what his minutes look like and his overall output. But just a 1 week out for Payne Haas. Corey Pake starting there a hooker. On your edges, Brendan Pitakura and Jordan Ricky. And then Paddy Carrigan at lock. On the edges, Ben Hunt, Xavier Wilson, Ben Tolte, All Blacks Tafa, Jaden Hunt, and Antonio Verhoeven. Never, ever heard of that bloke. So sorry to him. I'm sure he's watching, but yeah, VR. Many apologies there. Obviously, big surprise. Payne Haas is in. They brought him back. Obviously, he must be good to go. Maybe they just decided to give him a rest last week, fighting an AC joint. Obviously, history shows that his output after an AC joint hasn't been that great. So I'm very interested to see, 1, what his minute looks like, and 2, how he does go in those minutes that he does end up playing. And obviously just a couple changes to that back 5 as well, which are pretty necessary from what I've heard. All right, Sharkies and the Waz, baby. Sunday afternoon from Ocean Protect / Shark Park. For the Sharkies here, Will Kennedy at fullback. On your wings, Sione Katoa and Sammy Stonestreet. In your centers, Jesse Raymond and KL Iro. In your halves, Nico Hines and Braden Trindle. Don't know why I just did the halfback first there. Up front, you got Adam Fanua-Blake and Toby Rudolph there. So no Tom Hazelton. Is he injured? I didn't actually watch that game last week, so I don't know what happened. Blake Bradley there, hooker. Billy Burns and Teague Wilton there on the edges. So Britton Nickera, if he's back, has not retained his spot, which is interesting. Jesse Colahoon there at lock. On your bench, Sefa Talakai. Tom Hazelton's been relegated to the bench. Interesting. Oregon Kafusi, Braden Welle, Maureen Haroti, Hohepa Puru. Britton Nickera is on the reserves. Wow. He's been relegated to the reserves. I would say he's good. I just heard he's out for 1 week, but that's a massive call there by Craig Fitzgibbon to put Britton Nickera there on the bench. Otherwise, no massive surprises. Just Toby Rudolph starting over Tom Hazelton, but they generally are so unchanged. The Sharks, it's not even funny. For the Wars, coming off that disappointing game last week, Tane Torpicki retains his spot there at fullback, which is interesting. Very interesting to see. I think they just wiped the slate clean after last week and just move on from that game. And big test to see how we actually are looking this year against the Sharkies. On your wings, we got DWZ and RTS. In your centers, we've got CNK and Adam Pompey there. So very intrigued to see how we go defensively. In your halves, Lukey Matt and Tanner Boyd there. Up front, we got James Fisher-Harris and Jackson Ford. So Mitch Barnett is injured. I think he's out 4 to 6 weeks with his broken hand, which is a massive, massive shame and a massive loss for us. Wade Egan there starting a hooker. Leka Halasima and Jacob Laban there on the edges. Aaron Clark starting there at lock. On your bench, Sam Healy, Murata Niokore, Dimitri Valmunga, Tanner Stella Smith, Chanel Harris-Davida, and Eddie Eremia Toiava. So, looks like we're retaining pretty much unchanged, obviously, apart from Mitch Barnett there, which is the obvious one, but no changes to the starting sort of back five there. So, deciding to stick with Tane there. I think it's the right call. I just don't think you can go back to what we were doing in the first three. Well, as much as we were winning well the first 3 weeks, he's decided to make that change for round 4. He can't just go back. You look like an absolute idiot, I think Webster does. So I'm sure it'll pay off. I sure just got to play the long game with this sort of thing, and it'll pay off. I'm expecting Lukey Met to have a better game. Tane, even though he had that early assist, I'm expecting a bounce back from Tane Torpicki as well. Just overall, just need a bounce back. Just need a bounce back, boys. Knights and the Raiders, Sunday afternoon, 4:05 p.m. So, for the Knights here at fullback, Fletcher Hunt. On your wing, Dom Young and Greg Marzu. In the centers, you've got Dane Gagai and Bradman Best. In your halves, Fletcher Sharp there, which is good to see him being named after it looks like he was just copping it left, right, and center last week with his knee. Sandon Smith there, halfback. Up front, Jacob Saifidi and Trey Mooney is back from suspension. Phoenix Crossland, despite getting smushed last week, broken nose, is going to be playing this week, which is very good signs. He is a tough motherfucker. On your edges, Dylan Lucas and Jermaine McEwen, and then Matt Croker starting there at lock, who has been unreal, by the way. On your bench, Harrison Graham, Tyson Frizzell, Pasami Solo, Thomas Kant, Tyson Gamble, Wilson DeCourcy. I have heard that name, so obviously no Cody Hopwood, no Francis Manolua there either. In the reserves. I mean, no massive surprises there for me. Very, very good win last week, so I'm obviously not shocked that I would have been shocked if they made a change. Also, you got Trey Mooney back, so Tyson Frizzell is back to the bench there. They just got to back up what they did last week, man. They were awesome last week, so I just think they've just got to back it up. For the Raiders here, so interesting to see if they make any changes. In your fullback, KO Weeks. On your wings, but Sevilio Tamale and Xavier Savage. In your centers, Simi Sasangi and Seb Chris. Did potentially think Matt Timoko would be back. I'm surprised I haven't made any changes. Ethan Strange and Ethan Sanders there in the halves. Up front, we've got Josh Papali back from HIA and Joe Tarpany up front. Tom Starling starting a hooker. Huddy Young and Noel Martin there on the edges, and Corey Horsburgh at lock. So, no massive changes yet again. 1-3, and that one win was against Manly by 1 point. Very, very interesting by Sticky there. He's just sticking to the long plan, I guess. On your bench, Jaden Bradley, Zach Hosking, Adam Mariota, Morgan Smithies, Chevy Stewart, and Matt Timoko is there on the bench again. I feel like there's going to be a little late change. I don't know why. I just feel like there's a little late change. I think Timoko could potentially be starting, and either Sasangi ends up starting on the right edge for Noel Martin, or Sasangi goes to the bench and then comes on for Noel Martin. I just have an inkling. Matt Timoko has been killing it in New South Wales Cup. I just have a little feeling there's got to be some last minute changes. Just some last minute changes there, which I'm very, very intrigued about there. I just think they're 1-3. You can't just keep throwing shit at a ball and expect it to stick. They're 1-3. They haven't looked awesome. You got to start winning games of footy. This is a big, big game in Newcastle. Knights coming off a really good win. They're 3-1. Like, they're under pressure, man. Very, very intrigued by that. Last game of the round, Eels and the Tigers for Easter Monday in this one here. So at fullback for the Eels, we've got Josh Papali'i coming in for the injured Isaiah Iongi, which we did all expect. On the wings, Bailey Simonson and the Fox. In your centres, Brian Kelly and Sean Russell. In your halves, Jonah Pezzett and Mitch Moses. So pretty well unchanged so far apart from fullback. In your forwards, Jackie Williams and Junior Barlow, and Riley Smith starting there hooker. On your edges, Kelman Tuolangi and Kitiana Katoga, and then Dylan Walker starting there at lock. On your bench, Challenger Silva, Sam Tuivati, Charlie Geimer, Luca Moretti, Jack DeBellin, and Apua Tweedle, is it? Or Tweedle? Very much sorry if I got that wrong. Obviously, the big change, Matt Dory is unfortunately out, injured ACL, out for the year, so Jack DeBellin did pretty much have to come back. But even so, he's still not even starting. But personally, for me, I think Dylan Walker is a better player coming off the bench. He just makes such a big difference after like 20 minutes when the forwards get tired, that sort of thing. I just think he makes such an impact off the bench. So I'm very intrigued to see how this overall does go, but not too many massive changes for the Eels. I thought they put up like a reasonable fight last week, honestly, even though they got killed. They just kept trying and trying and trying. For the Tigers, coming off probably their best win in a very, 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 very long time. We've got Dream Bull at fullback. We've got Tavana retaining his spot there on the wing. Obviously, we've got Stafford Toa and Taylor May to come back very shortly. Luke Lilly there on the other wing. Sania Taruva and Makasini there in the centres. In your halves, Jock Madden, awesome game last week, and Adam Dewey. Up front, we've got Terrell May and Fanua Bole. Api Coruscant there, hooker. On your edges, Samuela Fainu and KPP. And Alex Twal there at lock, who was awesome last week. On your bench, Latu Fainu, Sione Fainu, Royce Hunt, Alex Safer, Bunty Afoa, and Gerald Skelton there. Not too many huge surprises for me. I maybe expected why, I'm not sure, like maybe Skelton to start over Tavana. But Tavana I thought was okay. He had a really rough like first 20 minutes, but came back really well, which is what you love to see from a guy on debut like that. Obviously, I think Stafford Toa, I think he's going to be back next week, which would push Sunita River back to the wing. Stafford Toa go to that right center. Then you got to have Taylor May back. I think he's going to be back in about 2-ish weeks, maybe next week, maybe in 3 weeks' time, around that sort of time frame. So that'll obviously push Luke Lilly out, I'd say, and Makasini to the wing, which is how they had it pre-season and looked awesome. Not too many massive surprises from this TLT, right? Like, I'm just looking again. Obviously, like, Storm have made a couple changes there necessary. Obviously, we've got Payne Haas back there as well. I just thought maybe a few other teams would make changes, like the Doggies. I thought Raiders would make some changes as well. Maybe the Dolphins, I thought maybe Trey Fuller would start fullback, but I can get it all at the same time. But not too many massive needle mover changes. Obviously, Payne Haas is back for the Broncos, so 1 week out and he is back, which is a couple of Supercoach implications, which is obviously massive, which is why we do this kind of thing. But yeah, that'll do for me, guys. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this TLT. Not too much carnage, really. Did you expect anything different? Who did you want to see? Do you think there'll be any late changes? Let me know down in the comments or flick me a message and what you think. But yeah, that'll do it for me, guys. I'll have my trade room preview, so round 5 preview for Supercoach coming out for you Thursday morning, so make sure you go tune into that one. But that'll do it for me, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and cheers.